You know that feeling, right? Just completely drained, kind of cynical about your job, and feeling like you're just not on your A game anymore. Well, that's modern burnout. And it's way more than just a bad week at the office. It's this chronic state of exhaustion. So let's get into it. In this explainer, we are going to break down what burnout really is and how to start tackling it from the inside out, starting with you, then looking at your managers, and finally, the whole system.
Man, this quote from Mashable just nails it, doesn't it? Burnout isn't always some big dramatic explosion. A lot of the time, it's more like a slow leak, this quiet drain that makes even the simplest, most mundane tasks feel like you're trying to climb a mountain. It's that heavy shadow that just sucks the color out of everything.
And here's something absolutely critical to understand, right from the World Health Organization. Burnout is not a medical condition. They call it an occupational phenomenon. What does that mean? It means it's a direct result of chronic, unmanaged stress at work. And that little reframe changes everything, because it moves the conversation away from what's wrong with me and towards, wait, what's going on in my work environment?
So what can we actually do about it? The first thing everyone says is self-care. But we really need to rethink what that word means. It's not about the expensive, flashy, quick fixes that are constantly being marketed to us. Real, lasting self-care is something else entirely.
Yeah, so let's break this down. You've got two very different approaches. On one hand, you have what you could call optimization self-care. Buying the latest fitness watch, going on a fancy yoga retreat. It's all focused on consumption. But on the other side, you have skill-based self-care. This is about actually learning things, stress management, practicing mindfulness, building habits. It's the difference between buying a Band-Aid and actually learning the skills to heal the wound yourself.
So what kind of skills are we talking about here? Well, things like cognitive behavioral therapy, which helps you recognize and change those really harmful thinking patterns. Or mindfulness, which is all about being present instead of letting your mind race. Even simple relaxation techniques. But maybe the biggest one of all, learning how to set and enforce boundaries to protect your time and your energy. These aren't just one-off fixes. They're actual tools you can build for your mental toolbox.
And of all the skills you can learn, there's one that might be the most powerful of all. The one that everything else is built on top of. And that's mastering your sleep. Seriously, it is the absolute bedrock of recovery. Without good sleep, our ability to handle stress, to focus, to do pretty much anything, it just nosedives.
So how do you actually do that? How do you master your sleep? It really boils down to 4 simple but super powerful steps. First, get a routine. Go to bed and wake up at the same time. And yes, even on the weekends. Second, you gotta unplug. Get off your phone, your tablet, your TV at least an hour before bed. Third, create a wind-down ritual. Read a real book. Do some light stretching. Journal a little. And finally, get your room right. Make it cool, dark, and quiet. These are absolutely non-negotiable for getting deep, restorative rest.
Okay, so building all these personal skills is crucial. But let's be real. Even with perfect sleep and ironclad boundaries, you can still feel like you're just swimming against the current if your actual work environment is the problem. And this is where managers come in. They are truly on the front lines, and they have so much power to shape a team's day-to-day reality, for better or for worse.
And one of the simplest, most effective tools a manager can use is something called the Eisenhower Matrix. It's genius. You just categorize every task by how urgent and how important it is. If it's important and urgent, okay, do it first. If it's important but not urgent, you schedule it. But here's the magic. If it's urgent but not actually important, you delegate it. And if it's neither urgent nor important, you just delete it, get it off the list. This brings so much clarity and cuts down on overwhelm for the whole team.
But, and this is a big but, delegating is not just about dumping your work on someone else. To do it right, a manager has to be super clear about what's needed, provide the right resources, and then, this is the hardest part for a lot of people, step back and trust their team to do the job. When it's done well, delegation doesn't just help the manager, it actually empowers the employee and makes the whole team stronger.
All right, now we have to zoom out one more time. Because even if you're doing all the right things, and you have a great manager, burnout can still be a huge problem if the entire system, the whole company culture, is broken. And that leads us to a really powerful idea. Maybe the problem isn't the worker. Maybe it's the work itself.
This is exactly why so many corporate wellness programs just don't work. You know the ones I'm talking about. They offer a one-size-fits-all yoga class, but completely ignore the fact that everyone is drowning in an impossible workload. They focus on treating the symptoms of stress instead of getting to the root causes. It's like putting a bucket under a leak instead of just fixing the pipe.
There's a really great way to think about this, and it comes from research on workplace safety. There are 3 levels of intervention. The first, tertiary, is totally reactive. It's treating problems after they've already happened. Then there's secondary, which is where most companies live. They try to help people cope with the stress that's already there. But the real game changer, the most effective level, is primary intervention. That's about being proactive and getting rid of the sources of stress in the first place.
So, what's the real goal here? It shouldn't be about making workers tougher so they can survive a fundamentally broken system. The real goal should be to fix the work itself, to create jobs with manageable workloads, to give people autonomy over their tasks, and to build an environment that's actually healthy to begin with.
So what does a real primary intervention look like in today's world? A perfect example is something like a digital detox. I mean, think about it. In our always-on, 24/7 culture, that constant connectivity is a huge source of stress. A digital detox isn't about blaming your phone. It's about the organization making a conscious choice to create rules and boundaries around technology.
And what this looks like in the real world is policies. It could be a simple company-wide rule, no emails on weekends. Or setting crystal clear expectations that nobody is expected to reply to a message after 6 p.m. It's about encouraging people to actually get up and talk to each other instead of living in endless email chains. See, these are systemic changes, not just individual choices.
So as we start to bring this all together, one thing becomes incredibly clear. Beating burnout isn't just one person's problem to solve. It's a shared responsibility that cuts across every single level of a company.
When you look at the whole picture, it's pretty obvious that everyone has a role to play. Yes, as individuals, we need to build our own skills and habits. And yes, managers are responsible for planning well and supporting their teams. But ultimately, the organization itself has to step up and fix the systemic issues that are causing the stress to begin with. If you want real, lasting change, you've got to have all 3 working together.
And all of that leaves us with one last really important question to think about. Is our goal to just build tougher, more resilient workers who can somehow survive a broken system? Or should our goal be to build a resilient system where all workers actually have a chance to thrive?